Say what you will about the Oscars when it comes to them having a bias against certain genres or nominees. There are plenty of arguments that can and have been made about that. But for me, one thing that no one can deny is that easily the most popularity driven award of the night easily goes to the Oscar for Best Animated Feature Film. Every year, casual audiences from North America see Disney and Pixar win just about every single time, and because they've already seen or heard about that movie, they go, you know what? Good choice. Meanwhile, international audiences and devoted film nerds who have seen the other nominees know good and hell well who's going to win, even though they've seen something that they deem superior than the winner, and just go, figures. So it was really no surprise when I discovered that Soul was going to be the frontrunner this year, and not gonna lie, I won't lose sleep when it wins. It was definitely a great movie, but it still bummed me out that my favorite animated movie of the year, Wolfwalkers, not only didn't have a chance to begin with, but it was also the only 2D nominee out of all the films, compared to Best Animated Short that had four traditionally animated and one computer animated nominee. So, with all that information, I decided to look into how many 2D movies have ever been nominated, let alone have won, and boy was I surprised by some of the shit that I discovered. Now, over the course of 19 years as I'm making this video, 26 animated feature-length films that feature mostly hand-drawn animation or a substantial amount have been nominated. Only two of them have ever won, compared to the one stop-motion win out of a possible 15 nominations, or 17 winners out of 44 nominees that were completely computer animated. Even worse, there have been 4 years where CG movies were the only nominees, including the very first year. Seriously, you have three nominated movies: Shrek, Jimmy Neutron, and I can't remember what the other one was, but seriously, three movies and they're all CG. There had to have been other possibilities there, guys. Come on. There was only 1 year where there was no CG whatsoever, only 1 year where 2D outranked 3D, 1 year where stop motion outranked everything, and there were 5 years with no 2D whatsoever, and 11 years with no stop motion whatsoever. So, with all these facts, you can imagine just how thrilled I was to see the Academy's appreciation for all things animated, but here's the thing. I said that this was the most popularity-driven award of the night, so with that, I do feel that the audience has to be held partially accountable, especially with the way that they're picky about what forms of animation they like to support and when and where they decide to support it. Now, one thing people are just starting to talk about lately when it comes to nominated movies are their MPAA ratings, and how movies with darker subject matter tend to be overlooked or not taken seriously by Academy members, especially with films like Joker or Get Out. Or audience members will complain about movies they thought deserved to be nominated but were allegedly excluded because they were too dark. For example, The Nightingale, rape and revenge thriller with great direction by Jennifer Kent and a great performance by Eileen Franciosi, completely overlooked, and yet Carey Mulligan, Emerald Fennell, and Promising Young Woman, part of a rape and revenge thriller slash romantic comedy, is one of, if not the frontrunners this year. It's a really complicated system that just doesn't make any sense, but when I was looking at the 2D nominees, and without even really having to look at the 3D nominees, has anyone ever noticed that only two nominated films have anything close to resembling an R rating? Seriously, like, Chico and Rita was rated unrated, oddly enough, in America. You can tell I've rehearsed this shit. And I Lost My Body was TVMA in America because it was on Netflix. That's really about it. Outside of that, every 2D nominee has a G in their rating in some capacity, even Persepolis, which I find really weird considering what it's about. You have something like Waltz with Bashir, which was nominated for Best Documentary, but not for Best Animated Feature, which, gee, wonder why a hard R documentary about the first Lebanon War wasn't nominated alongside movies that are for kids and adults, even though there's nowhere in the Academy rules that says that a movie has to be for kids and adults to receive the nominee for this category. It adds to the confusion as to why people are so convinced that animation, 2D animation especially, is just for kids, when the simple fact of the matter is there are kid shows like DuckTales and The Owl House, and adult shows like F is for Family, Family Guy, The Simpsons, that are 2D and audiences casually watch at home, which seriously, you watch this type of animation at home, you can cough up $10 to see it in a theater, and considering it's a theater with huge ass surround sound, no matter what kind of movie it is, you're going to have a hell of a lot better experience in the theater than you are at home. But like every video essay about animation has constantly pointed out, considering computer animation can create a much more photorealistic design than audiences have ever seen before, and because big budget animation studios have basically sucked up to trends and technology that is revolutionary at the time, audiences have become much more impressed with computers than they are with drawings. But honestly, for the first few years of going to the movies as a kid and the first few years of this category existing, I can safely say that audiences saw as many 2D movies as they had 3D, and judging by that one year where Lilo and Stitch, Spirited Away, Stallion of the Cimarron, and Treasure Planet outranked, I think it was Ice Age, I can't remember off the top of my head, but if those movies outranked that, it was a good sign that for a while audiences didn't care what their cartoon movies looked like, until DreamWorks and Disney movies like Sinbad, Road to El Dorado, Treasure Planet, and Home on the Range started to really bomb, while their CG franchises like Toy Story and Shrek just continued to grow. So executives very stupidly decided that this was a sign of the times changing and that the look of an animated movie was what determined its success, when the simple fact is, even when the movies were good, like Dorado, Treasure Planet, and such, the stories were nothing in comparison to the lovable characters of your CG franchises. Seriously, it is just a coincidence that it played out like that at the worst possible time you can imagine. Now, I should make this clear. When I'm talking about audiences ignoring one form of animation or two forms of animation with stop motion over another, this mainly applies to North American audiences, considering hand-drawn films in particular still are made on a regular basis and continue to make a big profit in European and Asian countries. And so much success that there are American distributors who see that as an opportunity and decide to show limited screenings for audience members who like what they're given in North America but do want something different. They show them in very limited screenings like New York City, LA, or Toronto, where they can get as much revenue as possible in a short amount of time. There's obviously a big enough market, and it definitely helps that streaming services can show much more underrated films, but it's still a small niche market. A small niche market that, if theater chains were to expand and show these movies nationwide, audiences can see this new choice and possibly be more open-minded, give them a chance, and if they do and they like them, the market can continue to grow. There are obviously going to be audience members who won't like these movies no matter how much they try, but weirdly enough, as much as I hate to point it out, and even though I don't think it's the main reason audiences avoid them, I do feel as if there is a little bit of a fear and intolerance for giving movies of another country or culture the benefit of a doubt, because they don't know that much about the culture, and they're not sure if they're going to enjoy it or if other people are going to call them out for not enjoying them. So with that said, here we go. Now, when it comes to 2D nominees from American studios, there were only 5, which is pretty hefty considering the 1 nomination each for Iran, Poland, the Philippines, Hungary, and Brazil, 2 each for the UK, Canada, and Spain, 3 for Luxembourg, 4 Irish flicks, all of which come from Cartoon Saloon, 7 Japanese animation flicks, and 8 French movies. Yeah, seriously, France actually outranks Japan in animation on something. That's just really weird, isn't it? But outside of that, in case you haven't noticed, there are 2 things to consider. One is that, for the most part, these movies are actually co-productions between other countries that settle on one or all of their cultures, and in some cases even settle on a different one just based on good faith, which is incredibly commendable. But the other thing that you'll notice is that if you are a casual audience member, you have never heard of any of these movies. And you might wonder why. Why would theater chains and streaming services plop up movies from their own country as opposed to showing others to possibly gain more of a profit? And a part of that, in my opinion, comes just based on familiarity. And the other ironic thing is, even though I don't talk about stop motion a lot in this video, even though it's much more niche and tends to lose more money and get less considered for other awards, there's still something about it that makes audiences more willing to give it a shot. If I were to show you a picture of Corpse Bride, Coraline, or Frankenweenie without you having seen the movie, you can instantly recognize it as Tim Burton. And because Tim Burton has made a lot more than stop motion and has more of a diverse filmography, audiences may be more willing to give it a shot. Same thing with Shaun the Sheep. It doesn't matter if you saw the shorts or the other movies, all I have to do is show you a picture, and you instantly think of Wallace and Gromit and Aardman Studios, and you're much more willing to give it a shot. Why else would the one foreign stop motion movie nominated for Best Animated Picture come from France and Switzerland, and the other ones, whether they're solely produced or co-produced, all come from either America or the UK? When it comes to a studio like Studio Ghibli or Cartoon Saloon, there aren't that many specific drawing styles that casual audience members can relate to, so there's much more pressure for distributors to try to rake new audience members in. But the biggest technique that they use is by having the dubs be performed by celebrity actors who were already fans of anime or have become fans of anime in the process, which is really awesome to see, and it's led to a lot of really good dubs. But here's the thing, a dub has to be correctly translated in order for the lines read by the actors to actually feel natural and organic. And on top of that, the actors actually have to fit the parts that they're playing. And there are dubs where both of these problems happen, like Castle in the Sky, that can really leave a bad reputation on these movies, even if you've never seen the rest of them. They could always play the subbed version, and some theaters definitely do, but then there's that stupid audience argument where it's just like, oh, I came to watch a movie, not read a movie. Well, you know what? If you can watch a Netflix movie or show with subtitles at your house, of all places, you can stand to watch them for 2 hours on a theater screen. It's a really stupid argument, but it's not one that's easy to win, oddly enough. So, with that said, it is easy to assume that if audience members give these movies much more benefit of a doubt, 2D, stop motion, foreign language films, then they would definitely receive more recognition in terms of profit, reviews, and awards. And I am willing to bet that that would happen, and I'm hoping that it happens sooner rather than later. But the thing is, no matter how much you pressure audiences to try something new, no matter how many times they try something new, there's still the possibility that they're not going to enjoy them as much as the devoted cult classic crowd. So even if and when this does happen, it's going to take a while to... It's just going to take a while for audiences to really appreciate animation as much as live action. And here's the thing, don't get me wrong. Despite everything that I have said, I do love a lot of the Pixar movies that have won Best Animated Feature. And in some cases, I'm glad they won over the more artistic ones, because it is proof that crowd-pleasing entertainment can still have a shit ton of artistic merit and much more identifiable themes than you give them credit for. Pete Docter, Brad Bird, Lee Unkrich are all really talented animation directors. And here's the thing, when it comes to 2D and stop motion is much more niche and does lose a lot more money, but I have to admit, I do appreciate the art form more than I really appreciate the story. There are great stories like Kubo and the Two Strings and Isle of Dogs, but for me, they just come really few and far between. And even with traditional animation, if you guys have been following my channel for a while, you know that I don't even like Spirited Away, and I don't even think it deserved to win the Oscar. If it were up to me, I would have given it to Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron. But it's not up to me. It's up to the Academy. And people tend to forget, we're not in the room when the Academy nominates certain films. So whenever we see something that we love get snubbed, and we see something that we deem overrated or safe get nominated, we have this impression that we were in the room when these movies got nominated, so we instantly know why. But the simple fact of the matter is, we don't know why movies get nominated or not. We don't know why movies win or lose. Hell, we don't even know if the filmmakers even give a shit about winning awards, or are more concerned with just making the damn movie and finding out that anyone loves and appreciates the hell out of these movies. So with all that said, what can we really do for these movies to receive more money and receive more awards? And the simple fact of the matter is, if you have seen Wolfwalkers, if you have seen Red Turtle, Boy in the World, When Marnie Was There, My Life as a Zucchini, so many great films that slip under people's radar, or Loving Vincent, it hasn't slipped under your radar. So continue to seek movies out like these in theaters, in movie stores, in streaming services, and be willing to share it with your friends and family in a way that's not judgmental. Because here's the thing, if it's that brand new to them, they're not going to like it in an instant. So be patient with them and hope for the best that if they love and appreciate these movies, they'll continue to share it with their own friends and family too. Guys, thanks as always for watching. If you have seen any of the movies that I've just discussed, let me know in the comments below what are some of your favorites, what you thought deserve to win some of these awards. But just keep in mind, it's the Academy Awards. It's not the Audience Awards. Be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to check out my other videos at Sharp Edge Cinematics. Take care.